Hey, how's it going? Today is 10th of September, Tuesday, and we are taking a look at the market, what kind of opportunities we can find. In today's video, let's take a look at some of the infrastructure projects, right? Perhaps we can take a look at trains and train services that will be infrastructure and new infrastructure projects that are happening when train links are extended, right, to both countries. But before we take a look at this article, so we can take a look at briefly. It's something that I heard yesterday. I don't know if it's accurate, by the way. So that would be trains was invented in England. I don't know if it's accurate, right? The trains were invented by George, an English engineer in the early 19th century. He's often called the father of railways. He built very successful steam-powered locomotive called Locomotive Number One and created the world's first public railway line, the Stockton and Darlington Railway in 1825, right? Uh, great, great. Let's progress and let's take a look at some of these articles when it comes to trains. To understand this a little bit better, Baltic countries had rail access, but it was different. Is it called gauges? Because now they would need to conform to EU standards, right? So same trains could travel to Baltic countries because it was slightly different, right? I don't know all the details. Perhaps they had to get out and get into different trains around Poland area, right? But either way, so that's what is currently underway, and things are being in set in motion, where all the rails would need to be extended. I think it's 155 millimeters, but it might be different, right? So that would be EU standard of how wide rails would be, and entire project, right? We can briefly touch on the entire project and process, right? Rail Baltic has evolved significantly since 2017, right? So this is when things have started. And to improve entire infrastructure, there was cost benefit analysis, and so we can briefly touch on finances, right? The project has evolved significantly since 2017 and cost benefit analysis due to various factors. The first phase aimed to establish an operations rail Baltic line across Baltic states connecting Poland by 2030 and estimated to cost 15.3 billion euros according to a cost benefit analysis 2024. Rail Baltic economic benefit, both direct and indirect, are expected to surpass cost and amount to a total of 48 billion euros for Baltic states. Improving connectivity instead of perhaps stopping at Poland, or perhaps extending the entire rail system to convert to European standards, and that's how much value the entire project potentially can bring, right? And there might be still opportunities available when it comes to investing and or establishing some of those links, right? We won't be reading the entire article, but I thought it might be worth taking a look at entire project. And as it always does, it went. It things do take longer than it planned to take, as well as over budget. So, Baltic Water Serial Baltic faces 19 billion cost overruns and delays, right? It's massive project, right? As well as there is a lot of things that we not necessarily have enough time to take a look at, and something that was published 3 months ago. Let's take a look at most up-to-date information that was published 2 days ago, right? So entire project is still unfolding, right? There's an article that was published 2 days ago. Let's read the entire article. So, for my own information, for others, where things are. Officials says troubled and delayed Baltic high-speed rail projects to set for completion by 2030, within the next 6 years, right? Since there's a lot of governments, a lot of people involved, as well as a lot of infrastructure, land, equipment, and there's a lot of roads, and rail might need to go over some of those roads, all these kind of troubles, right? Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania says they are committed to completing the entire project by the end of the decade of financially troubled and badly delayed high-speed rail project integrating the three Baltic countries with connection and all conform to European standards, right? Since the entire standard was completely different, as well as some of those areas when they're saying high speed, that would be entire line would need to be very straight, and sometimes because all those movement and that can affect how fast some of the trains can drive. So they might need to acquire more land and making sure the entire system will be very straight. Many things, right? I haven't read it, so all this information I will be reading for the first time. I know a little bit about some of those infrastructure projects that was happening in UK, and all the troubles that and all the budget and all these kind of things that was happening in UK. But either way, let's take a look at what's happening in Baltic countries, right? Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania said on Saturday they are committed to complete it by the entire infrastructure project by the end of the decade. If financially troubled and badly, okay, it's the third time now. A rail project integrated in the Baltic countries with a connection to European rail network. So we'll be extending it, and potentially now the same train can travel, and they don't need to stop at any point. Set to link to Baltic capitals of Tallinn, Riga, and Vilnius, one of the new track with passenger trains running at the speed of up to 250 kilometers an hour. The Rail Baltic project was launched in 2014 as a entire Baltic countries region joint venture with financing primarily provided by the European Union. Interesting because they're saying it's European Union, but who were they been contracting to investigate and do research? Because I think it's US who had expressed the interest in offering some of the finances, and perhaps European Union for whatever reason issue some of those contracts to US. How they got involved, right? Vladimir's, let's give last name, the Estonian infrastructure minister said Saturday after earlier meeting with Latvian and Lithuanian transport ministers that it's still our goal to start passengers and freight train traffic on the entire Rail Baltic route from 2030. However, we will still have to keep an eye on ground of the cost and find ways to save money and or build more efficiently, potentially to compare to how they've been doing things right now, right? Well, the initial 210 plan saw the project total cost of around 3.5 billion, okay, euros. Okay, that's still a massive amount, right? June joint report by auditors from the three Baltic states showed that the venture ballooning cost and the project may need up to 19 billion from 3.5 up to 19. That's a massive increase. More funding to be completed, right? As well as I was taking a look at and doing a little bit of research of what German based train service providers are doing with raising more capital, initiating new programs, then traveling and offering those opportunities for connectivity to overnight trains, all this kind of thing. So perhaps they can raise a little bit more capital as well as economic opportunities that might be offered later on after the project will be completed, right? It's unclear how much EU, which has identified Rail Baltic as one of the key European transport projects, is willing to inject money into venture. Construction of a new rail track running a total length of 870 kilometers or 540 miles from Tallinn, Estonia and Kaunas, Lithuania and onwards to the Polish border states in 2019, but has been marred by delays and disputes between the Baltic government of the train's routing, right? as well as it doesn't need to be limited to just those countries, right? They can go under the water and potentially other side, but that would increase the cost, right? But the entire connectivity, and then it comes to defense, that would be NATO defense, as well as economic opportunities when it comes to traveling from Tallinn to Finland and all other governments, right? I think so. There's a lot of opportunities, right? But then she's running at the last 5 years behind at first ban. Okay, the passengers cargo trains were supposed to run at the new tracks in 2025. Critics of the project said that meager population bases in the Baltics, just over 6 million people, live in 3 Baltic states, make the project economically unfeasible for passengers travel, and no emphasis should be more on cargo, also the key elements of the venture. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are former Soviet Union republics inheriting the Soviet rail infrastructure system and the wider Russian gauge at 1 meter, 520. I think it's millimeters, right? So I think it was extended to 155 or so millimeters areas. Then they regained their independence in the beginning of the 1990s or 1991. But either way, the Real Baltic project is a symbolic return to 4 Baltic states of the Europe. Until the Soviet World War, the Baltic states were already connected to European with 1.435 millimeters wide gauge. The Real Baltic website says. Okay. Quickly, right? So I'll be taking a look at the map. So the entire rail structure would, according to this article, 6 million people. Connectivity can be or opportunities can be created to go all the way to Helsinki underwater, right? Maybe, but that would increase costs, right? But add additional populations and connect more trade and those opportunities, right? If they look into complete the entire project within the next 6 years, perhaps just connecting as of now 3 governments is perfectly fine without adding additional length, right? But either way, once completed, the high-speed rail is set to cover 606 kilometers, a journey from Tallinn to Lithuania capital Vilnius in 3 hours and 38 minutes, offering sustainable time saving for current car bus rides of up to 9 hours, right? So cutting time, especially when you're a student, that might perhaps would mean a lot. Cutting entire time to that time, that would be 3.5 hours or so. Traveling between capitals, perhaps that's a reasonable amount, but it's just initial investment, right? With additional rail connection and force of Rail Baltics would connect the Baltic states, Warsaw, Poland, and eventually Berlin. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. It's definitely Germany. I'm just saying. I'm just saying because there were services and some of the operators in Berlin, Germany. I already saw a lot of projects and ways of raising additional capital happening already. But either way, due to the changes in geopolitical situation in the Baltic Sea region following Russia's full-scale invasion in Ukraine, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, all sharing borders with Russia, are stressing that there is a need to invest in infrastructure, which enables fast and large quantities of military equipment to be transported as grows significantly, right? That would be Finland, strongly linked to Estonia by numerous ferry connections from Helsinki and Tallinn through the Baltic Sea. It's indirectly involved in the venture. Okay, so perhaps Finland, as I mentioned, perhaps there might be some opportunities there, as well as I was taking a look at Italy, right, and some of those places in Italy who are struggling with raising sea level, where they would be investing in how to block potentially water raising. So some of those governments are investing into infrastructure, including UK is investing in a lot of rail connectivity. Italy seems that they're struggling with rising sea level, and some of the Baltic countries as well investing in infrastructure, right? Thanks for watching. See you next one.